Lighting my black sage for this one. Lighting that black sage for this one. Yes. Black sage is also known as mugwort. It is absolutely excellent, and inducing psychic dreams, interpretation and inner healing. It's good for astral projection and shamanic journeying and protection during such things as exorcisms, like I'm about to do right now. How is everybody? How is everybody? We at 6. Need one more. Great rising, great rising. Peace and blessings, Miss Bernice. Ladybug. Ani is in the house. Brother Allen. How are you, brother? See, I'm trying. I'm getting it. Stephanie, how you doing? How you doing? Jen, peace and blessings. We're at 8. Groupthink. Groupthink. Okay, first of all, we're going to get into a little psychology right quick so you guys can see through group thinking situations. Okay, Fee, first of all, you're going to ask me, what's group think? I don't even understand what you're saying. Okay, group thinking is how humans think as a group. Let me say that again. Because there's a different type of thinking when an individual is thinking for itself and a group versus a group that doesn't see any individuality and only sees itself as this group. So it in itself has one mind. So it in itself is a group think. Okay? So now that we have that, first, let's go to simple experimentation. And here is what we know. Here is one experiment in particular that I absolutely love to talk about that really exercises group think. Okay? And there are a couple things that go along with it, because you will also hear generational group think. Exactly. Hive mind. Precisely. Peace and blessings, everybody. Okay. Yes, communal thinking, same thing. No more one. We're not going to go with the prison experiment. And we're not going to go with the prison experiment because everybody has not been in prison. The experiment we will go with, on the other hand, is a visit to the doctor's office. Everybody's been to the doctor's office, right? Pretty much. You've been somewhere where you've had an appointment. Okay. Now, this is the way that experiment went. They put 5 people in the waiting room. And the 5 people that were initially in the waiting room, we will label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? So you have, theoretically, patients 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? The receptionist is in on it. The 5 people in the waiting room are in on it. It's the people that are coming into the door that don't know anything about this experiment. Okay? So, when the... Yes! Okay, Marwan, you're with me. Okay, so you have 5 people in the waiting room and the receptionist, right? So, the person walks in. We're going to call them the experimentee 1. Experimentee 1 walks in the door. He goes to the receptionist. Says he has an appointment. So the receptionist writes his name down and says, "Please wait," with the others. So he goes and sits with the others. Okay? A bell goes off. Everybody stands up and sits back down. All except experimentee 1. Because remember, he doesn't know anything about what's going on. Then a name is called. Okay? That person gets up, goes to the back. We're going to say 1 left. Okay? So you have experimentee 1 there, and 1 has left. So that leaves 2, 3, 4, and 5 who are still in on this. Experimentee 1 has no idea what's happening. So another person walk in, and we're going to call them experimentee 2. Okay? So experimentee 2 walks in, goes to the receptionist, gives their name, goes to sit down. So the bell goes off again. Check this out. 2, 3, 4, and 5 stand up and sit down. Experimentee 1 and 2 look at each other. A name is called, and original 2 leaves. So there still leaves 5 people in the room. Original 3, 4, and 5, experimentee 1 and experimentee 2. Okay? Experimentee 3 walks in. Goes to the receptionist, gives the name, goes sit down. The bell goes off. Experimentee 1, 2, original 3, 4, and 5 all stand the fuck up and sit down. Experimentee 3 is called into the room. Experimentee 3 don't know what the fuck to do. He's just sitting there like, the fuck just happened? But again, nobody's talking. Experimentee 4 walks in. Goes to the receptionist, gives their name. Sits down. The bell goes off. Everybody except experimentee 4 stands up and sits down. Number 4 is called in. Experimentee 5 walks in. Goes to the receptionist, gives the name, goes to sit down. The bell rings. Experimentee 1, 2, and 3. And original 5 stand up and sit down. 5 is like, the fuck just happened? Now original 5 gets called out. So the original people who are in on this are gone. There's nobody in the room that knows the experiment except the receptionist. Everybody else is absolutely clueless on what the fuck is happening. And not only are they clueless on what the fuck is happening, they have no idea why they're doing it. So, all new people in the room, right? There are no old folk in the room. So the bell goes off. Experimentee 1, experimentee 2, experimentee 3, and experimentee 4 stand up and sit down. Experimentee 1 is called back. Now here's where shit gets interesting. Experimentee 6 walks into the room. Bell goes off. Everybody but 5 stands up and sits down. 5 looks around like, what? I'm not doing. 5 is like adamant that I don't give a fuck. I'm not standing up and sitting. Why are y'all standing up and sitting down? He actually asked the damn question. And you know what? Nobody in the fucking room could answer him. He was the only experimentee that did not stand up and sit down because he had no good answer for why they were doing it. Although everybody else did just by reflex, just by what the other people did when they got there. That is the essence of groupthink. You must ask why. You must ask why, or you will lose yourself in the group. And you begin to do things that make absolutely no sense to nobody. Ask why. I would have initially asked why. Group think. You must have individual thought to be able to have subjective and objective understanding of the world around you. You must be able to individually diagnose and assess your surroundings, or you leave yourself open to the idiocies of group think. I'm going to throw another one at you. I'm actually looking for my arm because I'm actually holding this thing and I don't want to. And I think my arm is like right behind us. Maybe not. Or maybe it's deep in this thing down here. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, my arm doesn't want to be found, so that's okay. All right, here's another one. Another group of 5 people in the room. All of them are in on the experiment, including the shall we say, the director. Okay? Group think again. I know I wanted to put this down because I actually wanted to demonstrate this. Let me see how much juice I got. I don't have that much juice. Okay. I actually wanted to hold tight. I can do this. There's a way I can do this. Here we go. There's a way I can do this. It's going to be a little cock to the side, but okay. Okay, somebody's brought into this room, right? Again, everybody in the room is in on the experiment, okay? They are told that they are going to be looking at particular slides, and they are to tell the experimenter which one of the lines is not the same as the other. Okay? Now remember, there are 5 people in the room, including the experimenter who is running the experiment. Everybody else is in on what's happening. Okay? Except for one person in the room. We will call them experimentee 2. Well, experimentee period. Because only one experimentee was in the room at a time. Okay? Now, I only have to do 3 of these to make my point. Okay. They are shown this. Right? Now, mind you, The experimentee is at the end of the table. They're the last one to answer the question. Always the last one to answer the question. So the director puts this up and he says, which line is different? Now, 1 would say C. 2 would say B. 3 would say C. 4 would say B. 5 would say C. Now we get to the experimentee. Do you know most of the, they said 85% of experimentees would choose B or C. When the answer was, which one is different? It's A. Which one of these lines is different? 1 would say A, 2 would say C, 3 would say A, 4 would say C, 5 would say A. We wait on the last one, and guess what they do? They choose A or C 85% of the time. No shit, y'all. Groupthink is dangerous. I am so serious. They'd ask which of these lines are different. In a groupthink situation, 85% of people would not choose C. Now here's the crazy part. People who are individual thinkers, when given this same experiment, when 1 would say A, they look at them a little stupid. And you see them look back at the thing, and you can always tell the individual thinkers, man, because they get this crazy look on their face as people would answer. And they'd almost be indignant when it got to their part. They're like, see? What's wrong with you people? C is clearly the one that's different. Da, 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 da. And then they'd have to explain to them what the experiment was about. To the people of carbonation, melanation, Aliana, Velvet, Trinket, Tinkerbell, Willow, Ash, Sunday, whatever your names are today, because he really likes to change you guys' names, which is also a real sign of a narcissist, because they never want you to be stable. They always want you jumping from foot to foot, never allowing you to be comfortable and grounded for long periods of time. So they're constantly changing you. I want you to understand that it takes courage. It takes a strong mind to overcome group think, because everybody wants to be accepted by the group. Nobody wants to be ostracized. Everybody wants to be in the favor of. Individual thinking never lasts when group think is in place, because group think does not allow for individual assessment. It allows for one person's perspective, which is usually a very limited perspective. My sisters, my brothers, your mind is beautiful as is. You have the right to your own thoughts and your own assessments on this path. Nobody can walk this path with you. It's too narrow. Even your teacher cannot walk this path with you. and my people die. For flawed group thinking. In Tai Chi, it teaches us that if you become rigid in one piece, you are easily toppled over. It is hard to unbalance a thing that can break itself into 1,000 individual pieces. You were sent here to have an experience of your own. You have the right to your thinking, whether it's right or wrong. But haven't we been through enough? Haven't we been through enough? That they have trained us to group think against our own best interest. The mother sat in the abyss, and she loved herself enough to create the 1,000 things. But it came out of her individual mind. You cannot create the 1,000 things of your unique individual beauty with somebody else's mind. To the babies of melanation, you are precious to us. I have seen this before. And the last time I saw this, I was visiting a mass funeral. And I did nothing that time. So I can't sit back and do nothing this time. I was already complacent in one situation. So I can't be complacent in this one. Yeah, EJ. We're all coming out of our individual hurt and pain. You sure right, sis. You right. And I come down off of my mountain to offer this to y'all. You didn't ask for it. You don't have to. Take it how you want it. Run with this idea. Baby girl, you got a little baby coming. Motherhood is going to change you. It's going to change the whole way that you feel. Because if you have a little girl, you're going to want her to have the freedom that you didn't have. You're going to want her to be untraumatized. And you know in your heart, the way that y'all treated them other babies, how your baby is going to be treated. Your man got a real bad track record at taking care of his children. And I don't want you to lose your baby because your man is crazy. Ashe said she'd help you. If you can't reach out to her, I'm real easy to find too. I got you. I ain't sending you no money. You won't trick my ass that way. Not at all. I don't trust you enough for that. You still got his mind. And I know that. Anybody that take you in, it's going to be like taking his ass in. And that's where you going to run into your problem. Because your first inclination when you run out that door, when shit get hard, it's going to be to run back to him. That's going to be your first inclination. Like a whole lot of other little babies are trying to do. Because freedom is hard. Y'all, freedom is hard. Freedom does not allow for laziness on either sex. Freedom means you are up before the sun and you are going down way after it has. It requires courage that most people just don't have. Because you cannot rely on anybody. Do you see the birds in the forest relying on anybody to feed them? Do you see the fish in the ocean waiting to be fed? No, sis. If you've been out in nature that long, you know wild things do not ask you to feel sorry for them. A wild thing has too much courage, too much pride. I'm going to leave y'all with this, and I'm going to get out of here. EJ, Eliana, Willow, all of y'all. An older sister of mine one of my mentors her name was Bernadette, and she was a historian for Black women. She died before she could finish her book. But the last thing she said to me before they called and told me she had passed on, may she rise in power. She said, Fee, she had the heartiest laugh. I mean, it came from her gut and it would shake everything around her. She said, Fee, a bird does not rely on the limb that it has landed on. It relies on its own wings. That's why it can land anywhere. I give that to y'all. I'm a wild woman. I'm not domesticated at all. And I prefer to be that way. I can't be shunned for it. Because I can take care of myself. I rely on my own wings. Not the branch or the rock or the blade of grass or the ice or the island or the sand that I land on. I rely on my wings. I love y'all. This is kind of my tribute to Bernadette this morning. I woke up with her on my mind. People don't die until you forget them. And I had my mentor on my mind this morning. She was my last female mentor. I have no more female mentors left. She was my last. And the last thing she told me was basically to stay free. So I give that to y'all. This is FUNDIFE. And I can't stop fucking crying. This is FUNDIFE. And I always got my ear to the street. My ear to the street. My ear to the street. Fly wild, y'all. The bird that flies the highest sees the furthest.